Alien. Paradiso #1 takes the Alien franchise to unexpected shores, literally. Written by Steve Foxe, with art by Edgar Salazar and Nguyen, this 5-issue series sacrifices the franchise's grimy industrial corridors for the sun-soaked luxury of Paradiso, a resort for the galaxy's wealthiest criminals. But paradise doesn't last long when Xenomorphs arrive, turning the playground of the rich into a blood-soaked nightmare. Packed with corruption, greed, and carnage, the series offers a fresh spin on alien horror. With trippy Xenomorph POV art and a high-stakes narrative, Alien. Paradiso promises terror like you've never seen, so grab a beach chair and brace yourself as we begin. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. 3 days before the events of the comic, the Colonial Bureau headquarters of Zeta Reticuli system found information that could pretty much put an end to a major crime syndicate in their jurisdiction, which would in turn help reduce crime in other known regions of the space too. The Colonial Marshal briefs a couple of her officers, Marshal Nanda and Marshal Reeves, about the same. Last week, the Marshals ran a bust on one of the worst human trafficking operations they had seen in the colonies. The traffickers put up heavy resistance and they were only able to take one alive, and just barely at that. While they kept the piece of shit on life support, they got more intel on one Ricky Valentine's criminal enterprise in 14 hours than they had over the last 5 years, including the fact that he was close to finalizing an agreement with the largest smuggling ring currently in operation. The officer also tells Nanda and Reeves that 3 days from then, Valentine is scheduled to visit a suite at a resort colony naked Paradiso. It was basically a privately owned planetoid operated by a billionaire named Carlito Magni. Best that the Marshals knew was that Magni got off on feeling like he's got proximity to a high roller, so he allows these kinda shady deals to be made under his roof. Nanda has a genuine concern about the same and asks, why would Valentine conduct business somewhere so public? I mean, Paradiso would have hundreds of guests at any given point, right? But his senior tells him that Paradiso was actually something of a neutral ground, because the resort had a super strict no weapons policy. So the testier dealings like Ricky Valentine was supposed to make could be carried out without much of an issue, but a lot was at stake. You see, the Arrow of Gold, the cartel that Ricky Valentine was going to deal with, was one that was extremely violent and unpredictable, and they had a history of being shy about partnerships. So if Ricky could manage to hit it off with Arrow of Gold, he could effectively control crime in outer colonies, which would be a major problem. So the plan was to send Nanda and Reeves to the resort as a couple on vacation, of course. This was an undercover job. Meanwhile, the Marshals would have ships in orbit, ready to drop, but they would need solid video and audio evidence of this meeting if they were going to get the charges to stick. This was their chance to effectively bring down Ricky Valentine, as well as the Arrow of Gold cartel. 3 days pass, and the year is 2153. A ship lands at the Paradiso. Ricky Valentine and his gang come out, only to be greeted by similar-looking synths. As per the rules, the group had to go through the scanners cause Paradiso did not allow weapons. The weapons on Ricky and his friends were confiscated for the time being, and they all proceeded into the resort, only to be greeted by Carlito, who somehow looked suspiciously similar to Jamie Foxx. Oh, and if you hadn't noticed, Ricky had a golden arm, as in a mechanical one. Anyway, the only reason that Carlito had come down from his ivory tower was to ensure that the deal between Golden Arrow and Ricky was coming through. Ricky assures Carlito that with a cartel this big in the former's pocket, nothing was going to move without his say-so. And of course, Carlito would get preferential pricing on anything he would need to keep his guests satisfied. Carlito asks his identical synth staff to take the guests to the villa, while our undercover agents, that's Reeves and Nanda, wait for the targets to arrive. Valentine was here at the hotel, and that meant that the deal was coming through. Reeves and Nanda took advantage of the foot traffic and tried to tail the new guests to their suites, but it seemed that one of the staffers had started to develop certain doubts about the undercover couple. Next, we learn a few things about the indigenous animals of the planetoid. Maybe this is something that would become of some significance in the later part of the story. Moving on, the group's tomboy named Sula joins the others at the villa. After checking the dining dining room for vantage points and looking for bugs. Little does she know that she was going to witness the worst form of bugs ever. Contrary to the others, she still thought that it was a bad idea to do the deal in public, but Ricky wasn't too concerned. A little later, another ship lands on Paradiso. Instead of the scheduled 4 men, only 1 left the ship, and even this guy was not in the best shape. He arrives at the bar, his head hurting with pain, and he was sweating like a pig. He was a couple of hours late and was looking like crap, which meant that something was up, because the Arrow of Gold was never this unprofessional. Sula was not happy about these unannounced changes, and she takes it up with Ricky, who once again discarded her concerns. He goes to speak to Sujin and speaks to him, but gets no response in return. Sujin tells Ricky that he got an offer to pick up something more lucrative, and that's why he was delayed. When Ricky asks Sujin who it was that had the capacity to pay more, the man hints at Wayland Yutani before falling off his table, clutching his chest. He was pretty much behaving like a fish out of water, but his suffering ended as a chestburster did its thing and erupted from Sujin's chest. Panic filled the entire place, with people failing to understand what just happened. The next few panels show us the scene from the perspective of the chestburster. Its vision seemed similar to what one sees in sonar. Images, or a picture that's the result of radiations, say X-rays. The creature soon crawled into one of the ventilation shafts. Reeves and Nanda believed that Ricky and his associates might be dealing in bioweapons and wanted to radio it up. Of course, this was bigger than they had thought. Meanwhile, Sula tells Ricky that they leave the place immediately, who agreed with her for the first time in a long time. On the other hand, Carlito asked his team to institute a full blackout. He did not want a single word of this spreading until he controlled the story. He also ordered a shutdown of the exterior gates and outgoing boats from Island 4, the place where Sujin died. One of the staffers warns Carlito that doing so will lock the guests with the creature inside, but was cut off by Carlito. Lastly, he asked a security squad to be sent to Sujin's ship. When the said squad arrives at the ship, they are horrified to see what they had found. The 3 of Sujin's friends, who were supposed to join him, were dead, with their chests burst open. This is where the first issue ends, but I intentionally did not reveal what the first few pages of the comic were. You see, it revealed a bit of what was to come in the future issues. The comic had actually started 18 hours into the future, with Paradiso looking worse than hell because a xenomorph drone was running amok across the resort. It was slicing heads and stabbing people left, right and centre with its tail. One man tried to run into the water, but the drone caught up and killed him too. So yeah, that was all in the first issue of Paradiso. Marvelous verdict. Alien. Paradiso takes a bold step outside the familiar shadows and slime of the Alien franchise and trades the gritty cargo ships and backwater colonies for the glitz and grime of a luxury resort. It's an ambitious move, and this first issue manages to hook readers with its unique setup and vibrant world building. This isn't the usual grimy tale of blue-collar survival. It's a rich people problems drama with xenomorphs thrown in for good measure, and it's gloriously fun. Steve Foxe's script lays the groundwork with precision, introducing a sprawling cast of characters whose lives are about to collide in bloody chaos. From undercover agents and shady criminals to android staff and hapless workers, the residents of Paradiso feel dynamic and well-drawn, even in their brief introductions. The premise cleverly plays with the franchise's classic eat the rich energy, though here the rich might be the main course. It's a story that knows how to poke fun at its privileged characters, while still making you care, just a little, about their fates. Artist Edgar Salazar shines in depicting both the gory carnage and the subtleties of character expression. His work pairs seamlessly with Carlos Lopez's colour palette, which is brighter than usual for alien stories but still soaked in the essential hues of blood, grime and horror. The best few panels have to be those that show the trippy Xenomorph POV sequence by Peter Nguyen. This issue doesn't go all in on Xenomorph action, aside from an intense opening and cliffhanger. Instead, it's focused on setting the stage, establishing stakes, and fleshing out its world. It's like Aliens meets The White Lotus with a pinch of Casino Royale, a combination that promises to deliver something fresh. For fans, it's an intriguing start to what could be a standout entry in the Alien universe. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.